Hello everybody, this is Jason from 3D Printing Studios from Singapore. I am doing this preview of the Cubicon Single Plus. This video will basically focus more on the TFT 4.3-inch touchscreen features for the new Single Plus, and you can see inside the 3D printer it's very much nicely knitted up with all the wires nicely kept. One thing to note is that you will notice that the extruder that just passes is different from the single. So the Single Plus has its own new extruder. The design is, obviously helps to with the speed, which is up to 500 millimeters per second, and able to actually heat up much faster with additional cooling fan and etc. So you see here, on the heating side from the TFT, you can actually select a whole lot of features of different types of materials, which has its own default melting temperature. You can also have your own type. You can also cool down by selecting that feature. Filament, you obviously you can start unloading and loading following the instructions. It's very much straightforward, so you know exactly what's happening from the look of the TFT screen compared to the previous version. Utilities, it comes with a 4 GB memory in memory, so the file manager does help you manage your files, motions, diagnosis of the system. Of course, you can change the color and the sound of the LED of the 3D printer. The settings, basic, you got preheat, you got functions, got time, you got firmware update, and most cool is that you can actually now work with your Wi-Fi to connect it to your network. System information, basic information on hardware, software, total print time this machine has actually been functioning, and also your serial number and also your internal memory space. Obviously if you go back to print, you'll be able to see current temperature, target temperature, how much remaining time, and so forth. So we're going to start by doing a filament by selecting ABS by loading it. So from here you'll be able to see that the temperature is starting to heat up and rise up accordingly. Filament, as usual, Cubicon filament goes by the side. You just push it through the filament tube, it will comes out the other end. Make sure that you have selected the right filament material, and you've selected also the right melting temperature. So once it goes through the other end, you'll be able to actually fit in the filament and into the extruder. Same way like how the Cubicon single works, but in this case obviously the difference is that the design of the Cubicon Single Plus extruder is different, obviously for the speed, as well as the to ensure that the melting temperature heats up much faster. So all these are good points to have, good features to have for the new Single Plus. So just here we're just pushing in the filament to get the loading started. So we got the filament loaded now. So what we're going to do next is actually wait for it to load. You can see the temperature rising really fast. The target temperature is 240 degrees. So what is impressive about the Cubicon Single is that it heats up very fast, so that you don't have to waste so much time waiting for it to heat up. I was told that the printing speed is much faster. This unit is 500 millimeters per second, way faster as well. And also there is a 4 GB internal memory, which is very good for you to transfer your files and store it into the memory. And of course you can delete it when you need, so that you can clear up storage space. And 4 GB is quite a lot you can go around with. And you can of course print directly using the USB stick, which is a improvement compared to using the SD card previously. So Wi-Fi, USB, and also the internal and faster motherboard processor. This is really a very cool feature added on. And now we're adding in, obviously, it came with the USB reader with an SD card, with a SD card connected. But of course, you can use your own USB stick. Just make sure that you use the Cubic Creator to slice your files, and then save the HVB file. It's no longer HVS but HVB, and then it will then immediately load, and you will be able to see on the screen your print, your item that you wanted to print, a model of it. So now it's going through the motion to start the loading, and you can see that it will park itself in the middle, and then you will be able to see filament being extruded to show you that there's no clog on the nozzle as well. So over here you start to see the extruder, the sensor and extruder indicating that we've obviously pushed the filament in too hard. It's very sensitive, the extruder this time, which is a good thing. So you do not need to actually push or push force onto the filament. You can just let it slide in, and and as long as you can see the red spool holder signal turn to white, and then you're able to actually load the filament. So now you can see here that it's telling us to actually remove it, and then gently place the filament in. So that's what we're going to do. And you need, obviously this is the first time getting used to the printer, but once you get a hang of it, then you're able to actually very easily, every time load a filament or even unload a filament easily. So now it's still telling us that we are a bit too hard on it, so we need to remove the filament, and then load the filament again. And you will be able to load the filament when you see the loading option turn green. So currently now it's still unloading. My colleague is a little bit worried, but don't worry, I think this is a very easy to fix a situation. Just need to make sure that your filament is clean. So we normally cut it 45 degrees to make sure that there's a sharp angle, and now you can see that it can actually load it very easily. So once you're able to hit the loading button, and then the extruder, the gears will be able to actually fit it in, and you should be able to see the filament melting and coming out the end of the extruder, the nozzle head. So a little bit of patience. Obviously, the extruder system is very different compared to the Cubicon Single. So there you see filament is actually being extruded out, which is a good sign, and we can then proceed to start our first print. So the loading process will continue. It's up to you when you want to stop it. So if you don't want to waste filament, you can actually stop the extrusion. Then you know that there's enough filament that is going through. So next, what you do is you select print, and you'll be able to actually select from your file, from your USB, in this case the SD card, what are the files that are stored inside. So you select based on the material, which is ABS, and then it will basically show you what happens is that it will actually transfer the file information into the memory of the Cubicon Single. So this way you can always go back and reprint again, and of course it has a 4 GB internal memory, so you can delete whatever unwanted files that you have stored, and then load in the new files that you want. You can actually select all, or you can select individually for the files that's in the memory. So we've selected the file, it's heating up, so you'll be able to see obviously what is the current temperature, what's the target temperature, the printing, and what is remaining. And obviously the good thing about Cubicon is you can actually see the extrusion temperature, what is the bed temperature, and unlike other 3D printers is that it has a convention temperature control, which makes sure that the temperature inside the 3D printer is actually constant, and this is a very good feature to have if you're printing with ABS, or even you're printing with other types of materials that actually can melt up to 260 degrees. So you got a lot of options in terms of materials to actually select, and you can actually play around with it. So this print is going to take 32 minutes, as you can see, and 32 minutes and I believe 28 seconds. So after than that, you should be able to actually move away and let the printer do the job. All right, so I'm quite excited to actually get our first print started, and you'll be able to actually see it up close and see how it goes from there. So what we are now having seen here is actually the calibration process of the auto leveling, and you will realize that it's much more faster this time. So the extruder head, as you can see, is moving to the left hand side. If you're facing the printer right in front, what will happen is that it will extrude some filaments out to actually show that there's no block or clog on the nozzle. The bed will move up, as you can see, and what is interesting is that the leveling is much faster. Instead of the 8 steps, it was now reduced to um, 3 touch points on the bed, and then it will extrude before it starts printing again. So you can see now that it has extruded, the filament is cut off by itself, and it will go through the rubber sweeper, which will then clean the head. And also behind the rubber is actually a brass brush, which is good, so that it makes sure that all whatever filaments that have been used in your previous print will not be will not stick onto the extruder head, and it will clean it off. And then it will touch the back first, and then secondly, you can see here that it's touching the right hand side. When it touches that, it will move to the left hand side of the bed. Yeah, so please make sure that before you print, and make sure that when you prepare your nozzle head, make sure that there's no filaments or plastic that is sticking around the nozzle head. This is why sometimes you get issues with auto leveling that is failed, or auto leveling that is having to try more than 2 to 3 times. So now that it is extruded one last time, it will then move and will start printing the side of the string that will be used to allow you to actually pull away your print from the bed after the bed is cooled down. So you can see that the printing has started, and we will just go through and have a look at the print, and you'll be able to see the further results of the print from there. And you can see extremely close that the nozzle head is very closely aligned to the bed, which is a good sign to allow for a good print result. As usual, as always, sorry, the Cubicon single, whether is it a single plus or a single or style, all the beds are specially coated, and there's really no need to actually have any Kapton tape, blue tape, or even glue or polycarbonate sheet, like other printers where you need to stick it on and remove it every single time. So you do not really need to use a scraper. As you know, for Cubicon you can just let the bed cool down for a few minutes, and then you can remove it either by pulling the string that has been printed out, or removing it with your fingers. So the print has been going on for about 7 minutes. It has another 25 minutes to go. So that's the end of the review on the first print. Thank you very much for watching.